Hello, today I'm going to talk about special right triangle rules. You first have to realize what is a special right triangle. There are two different types of special right triangles. There's the 45-45-90, and then there is the 30-60-90. So be on the lookout. Sometimes they give you a hint about what you have, like they may say this angle's 45 and leave this one blank. You know, it also has to be 45. Remember, all three angles in a triangle add up to 180, no matter what. So if they say this is 60 and that's 90, this has to be 30 because all three angles added together in a triangle have to be 180 degrees. Now, there are certain rules. Across from this 45, let me take some of these off. Across from this 45 is a leg, and across from this 45 is a leg. On a 45-45-90, the legs are the same. So in the formula, the leg is worth X, the other leg is worth the same amount. The hypotenuse, which is opposite the 90, is always whatever a leg is times square root of 2. So let me give you an easy problem. If they said this was 4 and this was 4, well then take the line off of that, our hypotenuse would be 4 times square root of 2. Or what if they gave us the hypotenuse first? Maybe let's change this number right here and say, what if it was 5 square root of 2? If our hypotenuse is 5 square root of 2, look at the formula, work backwards. So you would take the square root of 2 off. Basically, you're dividing the square root of 2 off, and the two legs would be 5. So that seems pretty simple. But there is a type of problem when they give this one to you that's a little bit tougher. What if they tell you this side is just 6? So there's no square root of 2 attached. It actually is. It's just inside the 6 and you're not seeing it. So you have to divide by that square root of 2. So we have to take a 6. So let me change these to 6. I'm going to put an underline on it to make it look like a fraction. I need to divide that by square root of 2. So same thing over here. This would be exactly the same. So that would be okay, except for there is a rule that says do not leave a square root in your denominator. So actually we've got to clean these up a little bit. And what you have to do is go off to the side and multiply the top and bottom by whatever this denominator is. It's called rationalizing the denominator. So we need to multiply the top by square root of 2 and the bottom. The numerator and the denominator both get multiplied by square root of 2. It just so happens that square root of 2 times square root of 2 is a 2. 6 times square root of 2 just stays 6 square root of 2. And then we're going to divide it by this 2 to simplify it. So actually, this ends up being a 3. So 3 square root of 2, and this side would also be 3 square root of 2. If you went to your calculator and typed in 6 divided by square root of 2, and also on the next line typed in 3 square root of 2, the two answers would be equivalent. So let me show you that this side would also be 3 square root of 2. So that is the tougher problem when it comes to the 45-45-90. Now, what if they had given us this? They said, this side's 3 square root of 2. So you know this has to be 3 square root of 2. And you know that if whatever the legs are, the hypotenuse is square root of 2 times bigger. All right, so I would take this answer and multiply it by a square root of 2. Well, we already said square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just a 2. So I could take that off when I'm working this problem, multiply by 2. So multiply by the 2. And so I'm referring to this answer up here. And that would give me that 6. So that equals 6. So see, I get 6 no matter what, working forwards or backwards. All right, let's talk about a 30, 60, 90 now. Let's look at the formulas. So if you notice, it says short leg, long leg, hypotenuse. Across from the 30 is the short leg. This is a leg, this is a leg. This is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90. The two legs, one is smaller than the other. Opposite the smaller angle will always be the shorter leg. So that means opposite the 60 is the long leg. Okay, now the long leg is not the longest side of the triangle. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. So short leg, long leg, hypotenuse. Look at the formula. It says x times square root of 3, and 2x. So the easiest thing to think about is the x and the 2x. This leg and the hypotenuse on a 30, 60, 90 always have a relationship of the hypotenuse is twice as big as the short. So that's an easy thing to always remember. So if they tell you this is 3, that means this has to be 6. And look here, whatever the short leg is, times square root of 3 is what the long leg is. So that doesn't look so bad. So these two, this is always twice as big as this one. If you know your short leg, the long leg is whatever the short leg is times square root of 3. So if you can get these two, then you can get this one. All right, so what if they tell you this is 8? Well, then this is twice as big, 16. And this is 8 times square root of 3. All right, so that seems pretty easy. You could also create a table, and this is kind of how I do it sometimes, just to keep it straight in my head. I could say, if this is 8, this has to be 16. So I'm looking at the x, that's x is 8. This is 2 times x, so 2 times 8 is 16. And this is whatever my x is. My x is 8, so this has to be 8 square root of 3. So it's kind of nice to put it into this table if you need to. So those types of problems seem very simple, but sometimes they do not put the square root of 3 outside of the number. It may just be a number. It could just be an 8. So what if your long leg is 8? If they give you long leg or hypotenuse first, always go find short. So I need to backtrack. And remember how we said the long leg is square root of 3 times the short leg? Well, if you know long leg, you got to divide it by square root of 3. So I would have to divide 8 by square root of 3. All right, and I've already told you that there's a rule that says you do not want to leave a square root in your denominator. So you have to take the problem off to the side to do the work. I need to multiply the top and bottom by square root of 3. whatever the square root is in the denominator, that's what you multiply both top and bottom by. And it takes the square root off. That's the whole point. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just a 3. So my final answer is square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just a 3. So I'm going to take those off and change it to a 3. I'll go grab this and change it. Now, technically, I could draw a line, and this could be under all of it or just under the front. It really doesn't matter how I write it. This is my short leg. Let me group all of this and put it in here. So how do I double that to find my hypotenuse? Just double the top number. This will reduce, or it can be changed into a decimal, but there's no reason to do that. Just leave it 8/3. So I'm going to copy and paste it over here, but I'm going to change my 8 to a 16. So those are the harder ones. It's just that you have an extra step. So when they give you a whole number answer for your long leg, you have to divide it by square root of 3 to get your short leg.